This morning, I walked into the immigration section of the airport in Copenhagen. I was wondering what or how many papers I will be asked to present after entering the country. But surprise! Nothing. Just a passport and go. It was even easier than getting into any African country. On my right, the advert on the wall shows Danish actor Lars van Trier saying, "Welcome home." So I started wondering, what in Denmark could make me call the country home? And this brought me back to a promise I made to myself for this new season, to uncover the contributions of Africans and Africa as a continent into every country I visit this year. God morgen og velkommen to a Sankofa flight which takes you with me into my steps while visiting the largest Scandinavian city. It is said to offer the cleanest harbor waters and areas on earth. And believe it or not, the Copenhagen City Hall did not offer me anything to say this. Anyways, let's jump in.
African History Daily by my daddy.
Originally called Copenhagen, meaning harbor market, Copenhagen was founded between 1160 and 1167 by Archbishop Absalon Rig. Approximating 1.8 million people. Of that population, I couldn't find any proportion of it being African descent. So when I saw that one black woman immortalized on the city, I raised my curiosity. Her name is Mary Thomas, a 19th century brave slave from St. Croix, now part of the US Virgin Islands, who rebelled against indignity with two other female leaders called Agnes and Mathilda. They were known as the Three Queens. To unleash the largest labor revolt in Danish colonial history, they organized an uprising called the Fireburn, which saw 50 plantations and most of the town of Frederiksted in St. Croix getting burned. The rebellion was brutally suppressed, and the three queens were arrested, went on to serve trial, and served the prison sentence in Copenhagen, just over a mile from where the statue now stands. Now, don't try and ask me to find St. Croix on the current Danish map. The country got rid of it all along with two other Caribbean islands, St. John and St. Thomas, against a US Treasury check for the price of $25 million. And in fact, the unveiling of the statue comes at the end of a centennial year commemorating the sale made on March 3rd, 1917. In Denmark, where most of the public statues represent white men, Thomas is now honored with a striking statue entitled "I Am Queen Mary." The monument currently sits near Copenhagen's West Indian warehouse, which once stored sugar and rum and goods produced in Denmark's former Caribbean colonies. After a few Google Map verifications, we found finally the spot where it was supposed to sit. Although it was not inevitable at all, this could have been the voodoo magic trick of the Queen Mary. But it is not. The stand was there, but not the statue. What a disappointment. It is said to be nearly 23 feet tall, and her head is wrapped as she stares straight ahead while sitting barefoot but regally in a wide back chair. She's clutching a torch in one hand and a tool used to cut sugarcane in the other. This magnificent statue was created by a team of two artists, Danish artists, Jeanette Ellers and Virgin Island artist Lavon Bell, who aimed to challenge Denmark's forgotten colonial past. Their project is the most collaborative sculpture to memorialize Denmark's colonial impact in the Caribbean and those who fought against it. It is confronting present-day's racism and Eurocentrism by claiming a space for other narratives. It takes a statue like this to make forgetting less easy, the artist said. These three women, like many slaves that revolted, were never acknowledged for their sacrifices. It takes a monument like this to fight against the silence, neglect, repression, and hatred, said Heinrich Holm, senior research curator at the National Gallery of Denmark. This rebellion contributed ultimately to the abolition of the slave trade in Denmark, marked by the Danish Act of 1792. Before that year, Denmark was an active participant in the transatlantic slave trade and greatly benefited from it. Through Denmark prohibiting transatlantic slave trafficking in 1792, it did not rush to enforce the ban. The rule took effect 11 years later, and slavery continued until 1848. Whew! We left, of course, disappointed and wondering what happened to Queen Mary. Maybe it's written in the Berlingske Tidende, the first newspaper in Copenhagen, first published in 1749. Obviously the oldest Danish newspaper still published, and among the oldest newspapers in the world. I must confess, I was surprised by the number of statues in the city. Compare this to the most of African cities, where you find a few statues of former leaders still standing. They seem to always disappear. But here, they do not fade the brilliance of the new so-called leaders. If you think about it, even King Frederick VI, King of Denmark from 1808 to 1839, and of course Norway from 1808 to 1814, is still remembered. Look, this is even despite the fact that under his reign, the country went bankrupt to a point where they had to cede Norway to Sweden after Norway had been part of the Danish-Norwegian kingdom for more than 450 years.
I'm a man. Well, nobody's perfect.
Look, on a more positive note, that same year of 1813, a great man was born. Søren A. Kierkegaard, considered to be the founder of existentialist philosophy. I do love his philosophy, which I believe has a lot of similarities with the ways of thinking and living in several African countries. And one of his quotes applies to millions of us today in the continent. Everybody wants development, but nobody wants change. I did visit the famous Tivoli, where human exhibitions started in 1901. I wanted to have a feel and connect with the energies of 1901 with all the human beings exhibited there, in order to show, I quote, foreign races and their way of life to the Danes who hardly could afford to travel abroad. It started with the exotic and tropical human beings from India and continued with natives from the Middle East, Far East, Africa, and the Virgin Islands. I have wondered since if the Baroness Karen Blixen, who was born here in 1885, was also inspired by the human exhibitions as she boarded to Africa with her husband, aka hubby. I won't find out, and I may even make some enemies about that. But in any case, after establishing and running a coffee plantation in Kenya, among other distractions that we shall not describe here, she became a famous author under her pen name Isaac Dinesen, after returning to Denmark in 1931. Everyone in Kenya knows about Karen. She even has given a whole massive, big, cool, and rich area in Nairobi named after her. She's probably best known in English for the book and film Out of Africa. Okay. I said many things, but still not much about the Danish colonial past. Let's find that out and the rest of my visit of the city in the second part of this episode. Hope to see you there. There is a surprise waiting for you.